Hey, everybody, and good evening. Welcome to Pop Go the Writers. Just so you can get an idea of what a truly professional and high end production we've got going on here, what just happened was Jim came on. We said about 2 words about what we were doing about the show and said, we'll figure it out as we go, and then started.
Oh, I thought you were going to say all along that I'm just CGI, because I'm certainly not AI, which would imply that there's some sort of intelligence behind me.
My original planned opening for the show was going to be Lisa, who's here visiting,
Oh,
coming
right.
on and having a good discussion with Jim about Princess Bride.
Oh,
But
I totally blanked out on that.
she's decided to let you off the hook on that. Thinks
Okay.
you're a good guy, so
Okay.
everybody
That's
has
like a
flaws.
Christmas present to me, I guess. She's the lucky one. She's the lucky one. Because I would have given her a piece of my mind about that crappy film.
But then you'd have nothing left.
I know. Well, you know what? I remember when you said that to me last time, and I parted ways from you, and I kept thinking to myself, well, I don't know what I'll say, because it's literally just like, I don't know. That's just the way I feel about it.
I know. There's
You know,
movies out there that people love that I don't like,
mhm.
and it's hard to explain it. I don't like E.T.
Wow. I think I've seen E.T. all the way through once, and that was back when I saw it in the theater. It's never really made an impact on me. It was okay.
Yeah,
It was just like, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there are movies that I will watch over and over again that other
Mm,
people are like, wait, you're watching what?
mhm.
Buckaroo Banzai. That's definitely a cult
There you
classic.
go. Yep.
Your average person is not going to sit down and
Mhm.
understand that movie.
Yeah. For me, it's the 1967 Casino Royale, which I think I probably brought up before. Like, nobody understands my love for that movie.
David Niven, Peter Sellers. Oh,
Mhm.
man.
Ursula Andress, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Woody Allen.
Woody
That's
Allen. That's right.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah, and it has, to me, the best movie soundtrack of all time. Main theme by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
Now, see, what's funny is I was just talking to Lisa about one of my favorite movies of last year, which I think has the worst soundtrack of all time, which is The Batman.
Oh, I still have never seen that.
I love the movie. I love the writing. I love the acting, the story, but for some reason they really only used 2 songs.
Hmm.
I think it's "The Man Who Stole the World" or whatever it is from Nirvana,
Hmm.
and it's such a bad song, and
Hmm.
from a band I don't particularly like anyway.
Hmm.
But it's really, I mean, I learned to sing it in like 1 minute because there's that little actual lyrics to it. And the other is variations on Ave Maria, which is kind of an annoying song.
I used to have to sing it in choir, when I was in grade school, and it's very hard to sing. I was a soprano back then, but even still, I remember that it was a very, very hard song to sing. Hmm. So it has no incidental music. It's just those
It,
two.
there is some, but it doesn't stand out.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Oh well.
yeah, they
That
way
movie.
overused
That
Ave
movie
Maria.
totally tanked. Anyways, I mean, nobody even talks about it anymore. It was a flop. I love it. There was some news item. There's a thing called BatmanOnFilm.com or something like that, and I, for some reason, follow the Facebook page or whatever. And their news item just a few days ago was, I can't. It was like James Gunn says, our update on Batman 2. The Batman 2. There is no script at this time. That was their update. I love that. There is no script at this time. Like, Well, okay. Well, thank you very much.
I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score for the Batman.
Uh,
85% critic score, 87% audience score.
okay. I was just joking.
Yeah.
It has to be bad. I didn't go see it.
369 million domestic. I'd have to different website to see the.
Oh, that's not very much. That's not $1 billion, right?
I don't think it did a billion, but I think
Mhm.
it did like 700 million
Yeah.
worldwide. It's Batman. People saw it.
Yeah.
Um, it had $134 million opening.
Hmm. Well, sure. It's Batman, as you say.
Yeah. It did 772 million worldwide. For a DC movie,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And there's a lot of news that came out today about the Batman and how Matt Reeves, of course, is working on the Batman 2, and he's
Mm-hmm.
doing the Penguin series for Max or HBO Max or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
and that he's supposed to be working on an Arkham series. Well, it turns out the Arkham series is for the DCU, not for his little the Batman universe. But Gunn is so impressed by Reeves' ability to handle the character of the Batman
Hmm.
that he's also letting him produce the Arkham series.
Okay.
And he's also a part of that upcoming Batman the Cape Crusader animated series with Bruce Timm and J.J. Abrams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That originally was going to be on Max, but I think they ended up selling it to either Prime or Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and DC does good animated shows. So
Well, I see that said a lot that's the case. Yes, not necessarily live action movies, but
yeah,
but animated series. It's always been said that DC does better TV series, Marvel does better movies.
yeah,
Although in less than a week now, we have the new What If starting, and I love it.
yeah.
An episode a day for however many days. I
9 days.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Let's see. Sean Butler says if DC could get their live action stuff as well organized as the animated stuff, they'd be miles ahead of Marvel. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's going to be my Sean Butler voice from now on. Whenever I have a quote from him.
Or your Sean Pertwee as Batman's butler voice.
Yes, yes. Master Bruce, I believe you should kick his ass and not have another crumpet.
No, Alfred wouldn't really say that. Alfred would say, I think you should give up the idea of kicking his ass and just have another grumpet.
Not that Alfred. That Alfred was like,
Oh, right. I know, right. Yeah, not that Alfred.
why don't
Although
you
I
look at
like
the
his
little shit and
Alfred.
hit him?
Yeah.
Great. Now, next time I'm live on the EXP for anything, I'll have to do the voice so I don't let Dan down. I would appreciate that, Sean. But no, I was talking earlier with Lisa about the Batman, and I'm like, yeah, I always try. I've tried to rewatch it a few times because I really enjoy it.
Mhm.
It's something I put on in the studio or whatever, and I've got a urge to watch it again. And she's like, "Well, that came out a long time ago, didn't it?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Yeah, it did. Like before the pandemic." I'm like, "No, came out in March of 2022. Not
Was it
even 2 years.
really?
Yeah, not even 2 years
It's
old
only
yet."
a little. Yeah, I would have thought that it would have been a few years ago.
No.
Yeah, you know what? I'd probably, someday when it's on network television and all cut up with commercials, I'll probably watch it.
It's on Netflix now.
Okay, well, I don't have Netflix, so
Oh,
I haven't even seen the Barbie movie. I'll sooner sit down and watch the Barbie movie than I will
yeah. See,
the Batman.
I can't get myself to watch the Barbie movie,
Okay.
but mainly it's because Will Ferrell exists.
Is Will Ferrell in that movie?
He is.
Oh, I guess I will never watch the Barbie movie then.
Yeah, I can't stand Will Ferrell.
I can't either. I literally I mean my whole thing is that he's just not funny. I
No, he's
don't
not.
they're talk about something that everybody else loves and I just don't get it. It's like he's one of them those things like he's not
Yeah,
funny. I
no,
don't
he's
get
just
it.
annoying.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
I mean maybe if there was some sort of little hint of funniness a while ago, but it seems to me that he's just doing the same damn things over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep. The only thing I ever watched multiple times with him in it is that little video clip of Ryan Reynolds and him doing that short-lived meme where you sing that song, I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky.
I
And
I'll take your word for it.
yeah, but it's funny because Ryan Reynolds, it's supposed to be where you sing the same line in multiple pitches.
Uh-huh.
And he does the first three. And then all of a sudden, Will Ferrell walks into the background, done up in full turn of the century makeup, powdered the whole thing, and does it at this very high voice.
Okay.
So that kind of works, but it's short.
Well, yeah, little doses of Will Ferrell is about all you can take.
Dan doesn't like Letterkenny either. You seen that show, Jim? It's on Hulu.
I don't know. I don't know that I live a very sheltered life.
Letterkenny is, to me, the same kind of brand of Canadian humor that the Trailer Park Boys was. And I enjoyed some of the Trailer Park Boys because it was this faux documentary, silly thing. Letterkenny is a group of people that live in the town of Letterkenny,
Hmm.
and they're kind of divided into different groups, but none of them are likable at all.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those shows or movies where the entire thing is based upon the fact that everybody in it is a jerk or unlikable.
Letterkenny is the most hysterical show I've seen in years. Shorzy is the same way. Well, I know I can just skip Shorzy now. I appreciate that, John.
Have I ever recommended to you The Detectorists?
No.
No, it has two seasons plus a special, like a Christmas special, a holiday special. That's I love. Talk about like a small town with a bunch of oddballs in it. It's a British show about literally like a group of people who do metal detecting, and it's called the Detectorists. And my God, I can't even remember how I stumbled upon the show because I'm a big fan of metal detectors. I always wanted one when I was a kid, and just the funniest show. This one star of it is who played in the Marvel movies? Who played Arnim Zola? What's that guy's name?
Toby.
Toby. Yeah. It's all about two guys, and Toby's one of the two guys, and they're like hapless, like
Toby Jones.
yeah, they're like they never stumble upon anything at all, important or valuable or big or anything with their metal detectors, and the show is sort of more about the things going on in their lives than metal detecting, but those parts are funny too. And there's a whole club that they belong to. I highly, highly recommend that show. I'm not really sure how you can watch it today, and it is a few years old now. I always wish that they would come back and do more, but the guy that really did it is the other guy in the show. He said that he thought that they had done everything that they could do with it.
Mackenzie Crook.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
I'm trying to remember where I've seen him before. I've seen him in a lot.
So he's like physically, he's like the exact opposite of Toby.
Yeah, he's wiry.
Yeah. What I love is that the girl in it. I remember like when the show starts. Um, I kept saying, "Wow, she's." I said, "Boy, she's like a really young Diana Rigg," and I kept saying that over and over again. Here it turns out she's Diana Rigg's daughter. So you know who Diana Rigg is,
Right. You're
yeah?
talking about the character of Becky?
Yes, yeah,
Rachel Sterling.
right. And I love it. And then as it goes along, they go over to, they go to her mother's house or whatever, and her mother in the show is Diana Rigg. Just love it.
I know Mackenzie Cook was one of the dumb pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Okay, okay.
He was always teamed with the heavy set guy.
Yeah, you know, I can see that. Yeah, he looks like he could be a good, pirate. He's kind of a very homely guy. Well, so is Toby for that matter. But
Yeah.
it's just wonderful, wonderful humor in that show. And then there's some, poignant things too. Toby's character doesn't know his daughter, and then finally gets to meet his real daughter. So that's one of the things going on. And then, like I said, it ends with it. The last thing they did was the Christmas special, if I'm not mistaken.
It's available on Pluto TV, Roku, Tubi, a lot of the freebie ones.
Oh, good. Okay, good. It's one that I've always wanted to rewatch.
I've got a couple new things I watched I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
But before we do that,
yeah,
you have this holiday tradition.
Yes.
Of getting naked and trimming your Christmas tree. And
it's a good thing. It's a good thing Lisa is not on this episode. Yes.
You have a holiday tradition of pulling out some of your favorite holiday comics, and you wanted to share those with us.
Yeah. Was holiday comics a big thing for you as a kid?
Not really.
Really?
I didn't.
Disappointed. Really? Okay.
I liked good stories. I was a detective reader.
What? So a holiday story can't be a good story, you mean?
When it was a good story, yes, but most of the time they were just silly little stories.
Okay, well, what about The Man Who Murdered Santa Claus? Come on.
You want to tell us which books these are as you pull them out?
Sure. So this is Justice League number 110. It's probably from... Oh, I'm going to guess this is probably like 1973. This particular one, I have almost every comic that I've ever had. For some reason, this was missing from my collection for a long, long time. And several years ago, I actually bought a copy. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the first 100 pagers for Justice League of America. But I always remembered that particular story because... the emergency signal goes out to Justice League members and it shows, what they're doing in their own personal lives and getting the signal. And I love it because Hal Jordan is in the shower and he slips on a bar of soap and knocks himself out. And the Ring makes sure that he's okay and then goes and gets John Stewart, who had only... he had been introduced as an alternate Green Lantern before, like around 1970, if I'm mistaken. But I don't think he'd ever really appeared again as a Green Lantern. But it's funny, the Ring goes and gets John Stewart and takes him, gives him the Green Lantern costume and takes him to the Justice League. And they're like, wait a minute, you're not Green Lantern. And Green Arrow especially is like, yeah, you're not Green Lantern. I know Green Lantern, and you're not. And they're like, no, let's just give him a chance. And the story kind of focuses on John Stewart. It's a real early John Stewart story. So this is interesting to me. I've had two little Christmas comic book mysteries this year. I own every single Treasury edition that I've ever had. These big. Did you have any of these?
I did.
Okay. There's a lot of them, and Marvel did them, and Marvel has Christmas ones too. I have every single one I've ever owned except for one. I had a Rudolph one, and I think there's only maybe three of Treasury editions with Rudolph from DC. And for years, I've always wondered about it, and I've looked at the covers of the ones, and I did it again this year, and I said, you know what, damn it, I'm going to buy me a copy of it this year. I want to. I want to read it, again. I stared at the covers and it's like, this has got to be the one because this is the very first one. Like the year worked out. This is from Christmas of 73. The other ones would have been later. I don't think my dad would have bought me a Rudolph one. I mean, I would have been 8 years old,
Yeah.
like I don't think because I was going into superheroes. Once I got into superhero comics, I barely got anything else. So here, I buy this one. It's in real nice shape, and I get it home. And tonight, I've had it for several days now, and finally tonight, I sat down, I crack it open, and I read the first story, and I was like, that doesn't seem familiar to me at all, not even in the slightest. It was like a crushing disappointment because I thought it's got to be this one, right? So I did the same thing with a Dennis the Menace comic book. For some reason, my dad bought me a ton of Dennis the Menace comics when I was little, and every year they would put out more than one Christmas special. And again, I have all of those. I have all my Dennis the Menace comics, and I went looking for a special story that I really remembered. There's a store in Texas, a big store called Neiman Marcus.
Heard
Are
of
you
it.
familiar with it? There's a Dennis the Menace story where he has the Neiman Marcus catalog and he's looking through it. And I guess they sell really expensive things.
Yes.
Okay. So like he's like looking through it and he's like saying like oh, I want this tank. I want this like full-size fire engine. I want this live horse, these sorts of things. So I go to my collection and I start looking through there and I cannot find that story. And I didn't know where to even begin. I did a little search online and it wasn't really helping. I had to talk about it on Facebook the other day. Somebody who I've only recently become friends with says, "Oh my God, I just read that story. It's in blah, 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 blah." So I look it up. I find a copy on eBay and I ordered it. I don't have it yet. It's supposed to be in a couple of days, but that one I know for a fact because I went on the Grand Comic Book database and I looked at what the stories were in that issue and I recognized every single story. Again, what happened to that one? I don't know. It's just gone,
Yeah.
So, but I'm having a good time because these comics really, 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 I have so many good memories, of reading all this stuff. And they were always usually reprints. I think Marvel did some new when they did their Treasury editions. I think they did some new stories also.
Cool.
So that's it.
Okay.
I know it didn't mean anything to you
No, it
because
does. It makes me think about when I came across those kind of stories. It wasn't new. Usually, what happened was when I got into comics, my uncle showed up one day with two comics, one for me and one for my brother. My uncle, whenever he came to visit, always had a gift for us, but this was
that's
an
cool.
unplanned trip, so he didn't have time to get us a big present. So he stopped at the 7-Eleven. I bought me a Captain America comic with art by Frank Robbins. I
Mhm.
remember it. It's Captain America 189. I have it.
That's not the one with Deadly Nightshade, is it?
I believe it is.
Oh my God, I have that one. It's not my first one, but I actually have that one. And you know what? It's concluded, and I never ever have seen the concluding part of the story.
Yeah.
I only ever had that one. Oh, that's a wonderful story.
Nick Marucci, who I work for,
Yeah.
owns the original art cover.
Oh my God, that's great.
Someday I'm gonna have to pry it out of him. I haven't told him that yet, but that's my first comic ever. So,
Oh, I
but
love it. Wow. And that's cool. That's so cool that you got it from your uncle.
so I would buy comics at the 7-Eleven and stuff, or
Yeah.
at the Five and Dime.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'm old enough that there's still a Five and Dime.
Mhm.
Um, but then I got a lot of my comics from my grandparents, who my grandmother went. There was a tobacco shop up in her city, up in Oregon, and she would roll pennies and coins for them.
Uh,
And in payment, they gave her the old comics they had, because they had this collection of old comics. So I would, like Christmas, I'd open up and there'd be this huge box of old DC and Marvel comics from the
what
50s and the 60s.
okay, I was gonna say, so what are you referring to as old? Okay, so maybe even a couple decades old. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was some Marvel, like a couple early single digit Daredevil, stuff
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
Um, and then a lot of DC.
I love where we could get comics back then, which was almost everywhere. My dad bought most of my comics at a bookstore in the downtown of our city because he worked downtown and he loved books and they had a pretty good comic book selection. But I love this. There was a head shop in my town that actually had a spinner rack of new comics. So I got a lot of my comics from this head shop. He would go into the head shop to look at their music selection, their albums. But I loved it, and I didn't like going into the place because they always were burning incense, and if there's one thing I cannot stand the smell of is incense, and I just it's like, okay, we'll go in, it's like just lie back and think of the comics, kind of a thing. But I always thought that was funny. It's like I got a lot of my comics from a head shop.
I think Sean is adding to the degree of difficulty for me doing that accent, but I'm going to try it. Question for you all. Best 2 or 3 comics you've read this year.
Wow. I'm trying to think of, things that I've been enjoying. I've really been enjoying the Green Arrow series, the one that's going on right now. That's been really good. You know who artist Phil Hester is?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, he's back because that's how he did Green Arrow.
Quiver, yeah, with Kevin Smith, and
Kevin
then
Smith, yeah.
and then
Well,
went on to work with Brad. Yeah,
all of a sudden he's like in the last few issues of this Green Arrow book, and it's so cool seeing him, draw Green Arrow again.
yeah. Quiver is one of the trades I recommend for people.
I'm looking over at a stack of comics and like, wait a minute, there's something else okay, okay, some of the best stuff that I've read this year. Mark Waid has a little corner of the DC universe that's like the Waidiverse. He does World's Finest, or Batman and Superman World's Finest, which I really love that comic. He just concluded a mini series, which is World's Finest Teen Titans. I really, really recommend that. And then I got to tell you, his Shazam book is really good. I have not read a Shazam comic for years and years because I just don't like what they've had to do to the character. Well, he brought back 2 things this year, and I absolutely love it. And he's no longer called Shazam, which really pisses me off. I get it that they can't call him Captain Marvel, but I hate the idea that they call him what his magic word is. Mark changed that. He is now called the Captain, and I can live with that. In this last issue, spoiler alert, he brought back something that's been gone for a long time, and that's the idea that the captain is sort of a different person than Billy Batson. For many years now, when the captain, or whatever you want to call him, is just Billy in an adult body. He acts like a child.
Right.
Mark just did something that now gave the captain much more of the wisdom of Solomon, and he's acting more adult and more like, sometimes almost like it's a separate person. And I really love that way of sort of bringing that back. So I can really recommend all three of those comics plus the Green Arrow one.
I've got more kind of an odds list, starting with Bryn Mawr, which is the newest book from Steve Niles. And I'm not a big horror guy, but I've known Steve for years. We've worked together.
Yeah.
And when Steve is clicking on something, he can create an amazing mood and, that kind of suspenseful story. And I thought Bryn Mawr was brilliant. I loved what Valiant was doing with Bloodshot before they kind of paused publishing for a while. And I really like what Philip Kennedy Johnson has been doing with 007 for Dynamite.
Boy, I keep looking at that. I read I think their very first Bond series, and I never went past that. But I pretty much liked it. But I'm so glad that that's kept going, and I've always wondered if I should kind of try to circle back around.
Some of them are good, some of them are okay.
Okay.
But the two series that Kennedy Johnson did, one of them is called For King and Country, and then the previous one, I think, is just called 007. But go for those series first. They're new, or they're recent. Because now Neil Gaiman is doing the next one.
What? Neil Gaiman writing James Bond?
No. Garth Ennis. I get the two confused.
Okay.
So,
Neil Gaiman, that reminds me that I have also enjoyed the Miracle Man. And I had never, ever read Miracle Man before, and I decided to do this one, which is, I think this was the Silver Age, the Miracle Man, the Silver Age. And actually really, enjoyed that. Hey, Dan, remind me, are the James Bond comics period pieces, or are they in modern times?
They're vague enough that you don't know.
Okay, that's cool. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they usually do have enough future tech that it does feel like a James Bond movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean says, if it were to not count Kickstarter stuff, it's Where Monsters Lie, 007 for King and Country, and Darkwing Duck.
Wow. There's a a gap, but there's a selection.
And Jay says, I hope the captain sticks. I like that a lot more than Shazam. Yeah.
Oh,
I have never been a fan of the character of Captain Marvel, Shazam.
Oh, he's one of my most favorites. Yeah.
I would have preferred they kept him off in his own universe.
There is something to be said about that. Yes, I do agree. Although I like to see him interacting, with my favorite superheroes. He probably would work best, off in that universe. This is the other cool thing is his Billy's sister Mary. She is now being called Mary Marvel. And I mean, I guess that, that's okay. You can't say Captain Marvel, but since Marvel doesn't have any character named Mary Marvel.
Well, they can call him Captain Marvel in the comics, but they can't title the book that way.
Right. But the interesting thing is that changed at some point. And I think it might have been that DC didn't have to do that, but they chose to do that. Maybe out of respect, maybe because they didn't want to get into it, with Marvel. But that they dropped, the name Captain Marvel quite a while
Well, I
back
think
now.
the character Marvel's Captain Marvel started becoming more and more popular,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to differentiate the characters.
Yeah, definitely. Very much so. There was before Mark Waid began his current Shazam series, there was a really nice mini series that was just Mary as the main.
Right.
She was. I don't think they were calling her the captain, but she was Shazam or whatever you want to call it. So they do have Freddie Freeman in the stories, but he currently doesn't have any powers. So I don't know if they're going to call him the Captain Junior, or what. I'm looking forward to seeing. But
He's
it's such a
corporal.
simple thing, the Captain, and it's like, okay, that's great. I
Yeah.
love it. They even had a nod to some of the other old Fawcett characters like Bullet Man and Spy Smasher and Ibis the
Nice.
Invincible. Yeah, it was. It was really nice.
So with Lisa down this week, I'm segueing out of comics.
Okay.
With Lisa down this week, we got a chance to catch up on some things that we've been meaning to watch and just hadn't had a chance. And we've watched the last 2 episodes of The Witcher with Henry Cavill before they switched to Liam Hemsworth. We watched the entire second season of Good Omens. We've watched the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 2. And she hadn't seen the James Gunn, The Suicide Squad. So we watched that.
Okay.
And we watched The Gray Man.
Okay. What did she think of the Suicide Squad?
It was a little gory for her.
Yeah.
But
sure, get that.
She laughed her ass off through a lot of the movie.
Okay.
She thought it was very funny.
Okay.
And that it was better than the first one. And she liked the first one.
Okay.
So
I never saw the first one, but for some crazy reason I decided to go see the second one. And I remember I enjoyed it. I remember thinking like, okay, they're using F-bombs so much to the point where like it doesn't mean anything anymore. There's just a lot of F-bombs in this, especially from like Peacemaker. But it was an enjoyable movie. I got a kick out of that. I think it was because of all the obscure characters that I said, "Oh my God, Polka Dot Man!"
and what happens to him?
Yeah, yes. I remember thinking. I'm trying to think of. They don't use him very much. He's gone pretty quickly. But it's the javelin. Like what? And it's like it actually looked like javelin.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't believe
the concept of creating an entire team just to be a distraction.
Yep.
And Gunn got to put all his best friends on that team. You got Pete Davidson, you got Nathan Fillion, you had Michael Rooker, you had his brother Sean Gunn. So he filled up that team with his favorite people. So, by the way, hey Triple B, hello to Jay, and now Sean's moved over to YouTube, so he'll probably get a different voice if I have to read one of his things at that point.
Wow, we're suddenly popular tonight.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Reacher.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm going to start by reading Sean's comment. But since he's on a new platform, all I'm going to say about Reacher, the entire team for Reacher, and including Alan Richson, figured out exactly what worked from season 1 and brought it into season 2 and took it up a notch.
I assume that's his real voice since he said y'all previously.
I think he just added y'all to try to throw off the British.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know how many people caught it. I'm hopefully a lot of people. In the books, Reacher has this habit
Mhm.
Whenever he checks into a hotel room, he checks in under the name of a former Yankee second baseman.
Okay. The same one every time?
No, different ones every time.
Oh, different. Oh, that's even better. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Now, his buddy that we meet in first season that used to be in the special investigators with him, Neely, she books rooms for them. So she just knows his habit, books him under the name um, of a Yankee second baseman, and books herself under a fake name.
Okay.
The best part is when the bad guy is calling, or the henchman is calling the main bad guy to give him a report of what's been going on, and the main bad guy is being played by Robert Patrick.
That's that
Okay,
right.
and the name she uses is Sarah Connor.
Uh,
And when he
maybe a
reports,
little too on the nose.
but it's the line he gets to say.
Uh-huh.
When he reports, he says, "Yeah, they've checked in under assumed names. This person, the second baseman for the Yankees, and this person, Sarah Connor." And he goes, "Who the hell is the name of the Yankee, or the other name?" He goes, "Oh, he was a Yankee." He goes, "Oh, you want to know who about Sarah Connor?" He goes, "I don't care who Sarah Connor is." And I'm like, right there, that was beautiful. It was a silly setup,
Very funny.
but to me, it's right on that same level when Leverage was on
Uh-huh.
and they were going through an airport and suddenly had to get tickets. And Aldous Hodges' character says to Timothy Hutton, "Okay, what passports do you have on you?" And he reads out the passports he has on him, and they're all former Doctor Who's.
Literally the actors' names.
It's John Pertwee, Colin Baker. Just he goes through a list of Doctor Who's.
Wow.
So I love when they do stuff like that.
Now that I would think a lot of people would recognize. There would be a significant amount of people that would recognize,
Well, that's what I love is when you do something like that,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to be in the know. It doesn't, you're not missing anything. You're
Yeah.
missing an inside joke for fans of. There was another one where they used the names of all the Flashes. So there was a Wally West and a Barry Allen
Jay
and
Garrick.
Dave Garrick.
Yeah.
So I love that. To me, that is awesome.
They used to do things like that way back in God, what's coming to mind is in like Buck Rogers, the Gil Gerard Buck Rogers series. They'd be walking through like the hangar bay and you'd hear announcements, and it would be like, would Carter Hall please come to the, blah, blah, blah. And it would, you'd go, oh my God, Hawkman is somewhere in this building,
Yep. I love the episode with Buster Crabbe.
Yeah, yes.
It's like, I've been doing this way before you, son.
Yep. My former co-host of my former podcast, Fred Lefevre, is a big Reacher fan, and he's read every single book, and he really loves the show. So he's regaled me, a lot about all that. So I haven't heard from him yet, but I'm sure he's probably really happy that it's back. Are you liking it as much as season 1?
I think it's better than season 1.
Wow, that's really amazing. From everybody who likes it that I know, including Fred, everybody has said that they like maybe couldn't have cast him better. Like this guy just literally is. He's this guy.
That was the big complaint with the Tom Cruise movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's playing the attitude, but not the physicality.
Yeah.
And he tries to make up for it by just being, not cocky but confident. But
kind of like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel.
But Alan Ritchson is they're doing two things. Alan Ritchson is big, but he's not Jack Reacher tall. Reacher is supposed to be an insane like 6'9" in the books.
Okay, 6'9", really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's supposed to be this force of nature. So what they're doing is not only are they casting, not only have they cast him, he's 6'3", so he's not small, and he's buff as hell.
Yes, yeah, I've seen photos of him.
But they're also casting smaller supporting actors.
Oh, that's clever. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
At 6'5", I could have sworn he was 6'9" in the books. I've only read a couple of them so far, so I could be wrong, but I thought it was 6'9", but even 6'5".
6'9", he'd really like stand out for what he does.
And that's supposed to be what he is.
Okay, like you'd see him coming a mile away.
There's a line later on we've seen in the trailer where Robert Patrick finally meets him, and he looks at him and goes, "Damn, the security footages don't do you justice for the surveillance photos."
You know what I'm starting to think? What's the actor's name?
Alan Ritchson. He
There's
played Aquaman in Smallville. He played Hawkman on the Titans. He was in the most recent Fast and the Furious. He was on some football, I think Friday Night Lights or something.
Do you know
or some football movie?
I'm starting to think that what he might be perfect for, or very good for, is Doc Savage.
Multiple people have mentioned that online.
Okay, there's a lot of discussions about current actors who could pull that off. That's very interesting because I have never been convinced that Dwayne Johnson would be a good Doc Savage.
No, but that's the thing is right now, Richmond, Blue Mountain State. Thank you, and you're correct, Sean. He's listed as 6'5" in the books.
Okay, which is still pretty damn tall.
No, I'm 6'6". It's not that tall.
Oh, okay. I'm 5'8", maybe. So that's tall. That's literally 6 to 8 inches taller than me.
Yeah, but but the first I've recently read the book that they've adapted for this, which is Bad Luck and Trouble. And what I love about it is we got the whole first season, and they brought the character of Neely into it, even though she's not in the book they adapted, which is the first, the Killing Floor, the first Reacher novel.
Yeah.
But in doing so, then they go to a book that she is in, so you have at least one other returning character, because otherwise there are no in Reacher books, rarely if ever does a character show up more than once. So Neely is one of the few. So I like the fact that they did that. So it kind of set up that Jay says he's 5'3" wearing shoes.
Okay, good. That makes him shorter than me then.
Yeah. Well, leprechauns need work too, and I'm glad you hired you for the experience. Which means that Jay's voice is now Irish.
I'm not sure I want to hear you do that.
Shoes. He's motivated when Bob Allen showed up he had a bunch of fake IDs. There were other flashes.
Sure, he had a lot of fake IDs. He did.
Oh my God. See, I always thought Sean was really tall because when he stood next to Jay, I didn't realize. Anyway, love you, Jay. I do.
I'm reserving judgment.
So, but they do some subtle changes from the novel, but I think they're all good. But the oddest one is they move locations. In the book, it takes place in Los Angeles, and then there's part of it that goes to Vegas. And some major part of the action takes place in the desert. This is moved up to New York, with some of it happening in Atlantic City, all the Vegas stuff happening in Atlantic City. And instead of the desert, it happens in the mountains and the Catskills. All I can think of is they knew they were shooting in the winter and that they were going to be shooting probably in parts of Canada to double as American cities,
Yeah.
and it made
Sure.
more sense to change it.
Sure.
But it doesn't throw off what's going on.
Sure.
There are some great lines. Richson is still playing Reacher as a total force of nature and is nailing it. Just again, absolutely nailing it. Jay says his potential. Hey, my paternal grandfather was a 7-foot Irishman.
Wow.
Mind you, he was standing on a large rock, but we count him as a 7'1".
Yes, but how long was his shillelagh stick?
And how did he end up with such a wee lad for a grandchild?
Well, you see, when the good Lord handed out height, he used it all up on the grandfather, and there was none left for the wee grandchild. Sure and begorra.
All right, we're going to move on for Reacher.
Okay.
And I got to watch the 6-episode second season of Good Omens. And I was a little concerned about it because season 1, of course, was an adaptation of the book by Gaiman and Pritchett, Terry Pratchett.
Right.
Season 2 was newly written because they covered the book. But it turns out that in about 2016, Gaiman and Pratchett had sat down with the idea of pitching the show, or pitching the book as a TV show, and came up with more story, including what they thought would be the ending. And that's what Gaiman is using.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be oh, by the way, Reacher got renewed for a 3rd season already, even though this has just started.
Yeah.
Good Omens got renewed for a 3rd and final season. So they're going to tell exactly the story that Gaiman and Pratchett had worked out.
That's nice that Terry is part of it, even though he's gone. You know, that's nice.
I loved the first season, but I loved it because David Tennant and Michael Sheen were just so brilliant in the roles. The story itself was kind of confusing, a little all over the place, but it was still a good story. It made more sense in the series than when I tried to read the book. The second season is a tighter story, more personal. The stakes make more sense. It's a little more controlled. So I think it's a better written series, season of the season. And it's great. They move the characters forward. John Hamm comes back and shows what real comedic chops he's got.
Yeah.
Derek Jacobi shows up near the end, and basically anytime Derek Jacobi walks into a movie or TV series, it goes up a notch.
Yeah, my wife really liked him. She liked the his detective character that was like a monk.
Cadfill?
Yeah, that's it. She liked the books and she liked him as the character. Wow, he's got to be kind of getting older now, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
He is. But he plays the Metatron.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really well done second season, but it ends on a sudden downer note. And it's like, what? But it was and I just watched it this week, got up the next morning, and that's when Amazon announced the 3rd season. Where I think the people who watched it when it first came out had to be going, you can't end it there.
Right.
What the hell? You can't end it there. So I think it's neat that they are going to do the 3rd season and that it is Pratchett driving this as much as Gaiman.
Yeah.
But again, Sheen and Tennant are so good in this. And but Hamm it takes his work up a couple notches.
Hmm.
I still need to see his version of Fletch,
Mm-hmm.
but he did so good in that. Um, so yeah, that's that. Those are, like I said, Suicide Squad. Oh, and then the last few episodes of The Witcher, I totally see why Henry Cavill left.
Because it's bad, or
Well, yeah, they changed the tone and everything. The
oh,
first two seasons were this epic fantasy with monsters and magic, and the last season was very much a political drama just set in that time. I think they were trying to go more Game of Thrones.
thank you. I was going to say, well, they're just trying to do Game of
Yeah.
Thrones then. Yeah.
And in doing so, they've lost what made The Witcher unique
Oh, that's
and
a
fun.
shame.
And it's frustrating because, of course, they also didn't give it a satisfactory ending. They left it just a mess
Mm-hmm.
with the idea that you got to come back for the fourth season. But it's going to be a different actor. It's going to be Liam Hemsworth. I keep wanting to say Liam Neeson. It's going to be Liam Hemsworth, and I don't know if I'm coming back.
I will guess that there's probably a few other people that feel that same way too, that they may, lose a lot of, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of ladies who are watching the show because of Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, by the way, speaking of ladies watching the show, I do not recommend watching 5 hours straight of TV with your girlfriend when the stars are Henry Cavill and then Alan Richson.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Speaking of something that's kind of a mess, just real quick, I wanted to mention Monarch: Legacy of Monsters.
Please.
I wanted to recommend it, and at this point I've watched 5 episodes. I think there's maybe 6 out right now. I'm not really sure. I really wanted to like this show, and you know what it is? It's like if it's like all of the human elements in Godzilla movies, except you get a whole series of it. It's kind of weaving in and out of the around the first and second movies in Godzilla. It touches a lot upon the first Godzilla movie. Um, but I just, you know what it is? It's like it's just too much interpersonal drama that just really goes nowhere, and characters that I really don't care about. There's a really good premise at the core of it, which is there's an American girl and a Japanese guy, and they find out that they have the same father, that the father was living 2 different lives. He had 2 wives, one in Japan and one in America, and they're trying to find out what happened to him. And they, start to learn about Monarch, the organization that's like in charge of the monsters. But again, it's like there's just not enough of the monsters in it,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Is if all the human stuff is interesting, a la which has been one of the most popular movies out, and it's from Japan, is Godzilla Minus Zero. It's just going great guns, and how everybody's saying they love the human element in
Yeah.
it. But boy, it's like I'm gonna keep going. I want to get through the whole thing, but it's just I can't, I don't have any feelings at all for really for the human characters. Some of the like the sort of antagonists are kind of interesting, and the father and son duo in it, but they're playing the same character in it. That's not that interesting either. I wanted to really really like that, but what's his name, Kurt Russell, he's, to me, he's kind of just phoning it in. It's not that great. I mean, no one is ever going to go, oh, great Kurt Russell performance in this. It's like, yeah, it's not that great. At one point, I said on Facebook, like, oh my God, I got it. I know what it is. I finally figured out what this series is. It's the sequel to Big Trouble in Little China. And I actually had a couple people who believed me. I must have said it, seriously enough. Because you know what? In some ways, that's what Kurt Russell is doing. He's Jack Burton, I think was the name of the character. He's kind of just doing like an older Jack Burton.
What
Jack Burton.
what is Monarch on? Is it Apple TV?
It's on Apple TV, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm never going to see it, but
Okay,
Triple B
okay.
was asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I don't think there's very many people that are so into the American Godzilla movies that they there's a lot, like I said, it's kind of weaving in and out and touching upon a lot of different things. And if I don't remember enough of that stuff from those movies to to have it that
For
big
some
of an
reason,
impact.
American producers don't seem to understand that nobody cares about the humans in the movies.
Yeah, right, right. And I get it. It's like they want to save Godzilla for the movies, and he has like one or two cameos,
Yeah.
in it, and they're introducing some new Titans, but those have not really been that interesting yet. So I don't know where it's going to go, and there's too much jumping back and forth through time at different time periods. It's not just like present day, which really is actually 2017, if I'm not mistaken, is present day in this. And then they have stuff set in the 50s, but that's all it just kind of flips back and forth without really much point, to it. So
See, now, if they wanted to do something really good with humans in a Godzilla movie, then you basically make Jaegers or Jaegers, whatever they're called, the giant,
yeah,
and then
Pacific
have
Rim.
that.
Yeah, one of my most favorite giant monster movies of modern times. Yeah, both of them. But I like the sequel too. First one's better, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. There, you know what? That was a perfect blending. And yeah, there's some like kind of overly melodramatic stuff in there. But you know what? That whole universe is so interesting and kind of cool that the world building gets you through it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely a good example. Yep.
that's how you do it. You don't spend all the time. It's like, we're going to study this guy over here and the ants on the ground by him. Okay.
Okay.
Why do we care?
Have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Is that everything we wanted to cover tonight?
What didn't we cover?
Well, we're not going to be back until after New Year's.
Yep.
The Sunday after New Year's.
Yep.
And then we'll have What If to talk about. And then we'll have the new Echo series to talk about.
Yeah.
With all 5 episodes dropping on Tuesday night, the 9th.
Wow.
And yeah.
Wow. I got to write myself a note or I'm going to forget that. So we'll be back on the 7th, right? That's how I calculate that. Good.
Yes. And there's also, of course, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which probably neither of us will get to see. But
it gets, every time I see more of it, it gets worse. I can't believe how bad that movie looks.
I don't know. The first one was good. I enjoyed the first one.
Well, and it was popular. Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping the second one is kind of is a good follow up. It's the same writer, same director, mostly the same actors.
They're really pushing the comedy in the trailers, and it's just falling flat.
Yeah, I'm not big on watching the trailers. Show me some action in the trailers. That'll get my attention, but don't ruin the movie. Yeah. And don't try to set a tone. Just show me some action with some good music, and you're going to get my attention.
And don't show me more than 2 seconds of Amber Heard, which they didn't.
Yeah,
they have not done that. Yeah, I think it's like that first trailer. You blink and you miss her.
I think I'll be happy once it's over. That way, it's out of it. It's just gone.
Yeah.
The whole DCEU is gone.
That's it, right?
So we can see what James Gunn has in store.
Yep.
And we can move forward, and maybe we'll also have Rebel Moon.
Oh, I don't like the looks of it. Sorry.
The current rating, I should bring up the current ones because I know the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes for Rebel Moon have not been very good.
Isn't it like streaming? It's not in the theaters, right?
It was in theaters, or will have a minor
Oh,
theatrical release, but it's going to be on Netflix. So some people have seen it. Critic score from 43 reviews is 23%.
it looks like a 23%. It looks like a really, you know what it reminds me of, Dan? Back when Star Wars first came out, like for a year or two after it, there were all these like Star Wars knockoff movies, Battle
Battle of
Beyond
the
the
Planets.
Stars. That's what it reminds me of. And I know the pedigree it has, that it began life as a Star Wars pitch. But
Yeah,
oh,
I read the most scathing review that basically said it was the Seven Samurai meet Star Wars without any of the emotional connection we have to the Star Wars universe.
hmm,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I mean it's getting a 75% audience score
Hmm,
for the people who have seen it,
yeah.
but most of the people who have seen it are Zack Snyder lovers.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, exactly right.
yeah, Jay, I agree that most of the time audience scores, I don't know what accent that is. Audience scores count more for me too.
Do it like Rocky Balboa.
Hey, so yeah, like audience scores, they count more for me. Um,
I think you should end it right there.
so I agree with you in most cases. The problem is somebody like Zack Snyder
Hmm.
has this legion of fans who will run up the score or run down the score.
They're drooling fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rebel Moon is something that I'm going to have to watch for myself. And I don't dislike Zack Snyder movies.
Mm-hmm.
I thought The Watchmen had a lot of good stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the 300 was great.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen parts of Sucker Punch. Haven't had a chance to see the whole thing. I was okay with Man of Steel and Batman Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they weren't my favorite of DC movies, but they weren't, horrible either. They weren't Shazam 2 or they weren't The Flash. So I don't have a problem with Zack Snyder,
Okay.
but I do have a problem with his movies tend to get characters wrong. You
Yeah,
know,
like Man of Steel.
and he is very dedicated to a certain style of writing where he has said he would come back to DC, or to Marvel or DC, only to do either the Dark Knight Returns adaptation or Daredevil and Elektra, the Frank Miller. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, the only people he really wants to adapt are Alan Moore or Frank Miller.
Yeah.
And that is a style of writing
Yeah.
that is similar, those two, but it's also very dark,
Yeah.
realistic.
It's deconstruction. It's superhero deconstruction. At one time was all, the main flavor, after Watchmen, and I get that, but it's once you have a bunch of it, I don't really care for it anymore. He doesn't like real superheroes. He has to deconstruct it. He has to find the dark, part of it, and
Yeah.
that's just not for me. I said it before. I got to the end of Man of Steel and felt like walking out of the theater when the big thing happened in Man of Steel.
Jay says, we could have a whole discussion on both actors getting characters wrong. Jay, what other director are you
What
talking
was
about?
that? Wait, was that like Swedish or something?
Um, we've only been talking about one director. Which other director? Vigilante isn't Deadpool. Okay, so you're talking about James Gunn.
Oh, okay, sure.
So okay, yeah, I will give you that. Vigilante is a character I've loved since I was a kid. I got the first issue, just fell in love with the character, and yeah, he's not Deadpool. So Adam Warlock is not a dumb kid, you know. So Gunn does go his own directions too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that and Peacemaker isn't as played as comedically in the comics.
At least James Gunn has as an actual sense of fun, and joy in there.
Yeah.
I think that's important if you're going to adapt it,
Mhm.
differently. Then, but yeah, I mm,
Yeah, but my point was I wasn't comparing Snyder to anybody. I
right.
wasn't
Yep.
saying, well, he did this wrong compared to James Gunn do it. See, that's my biggest problem right now in the Snyder thing is that if you are a Snyder supporter, then you have to go after everybody else. And
Yep.
I was only talking about Snyder. I wasn't necessarily defending Gunn. Gunn
Yep.
has made some bad mistakes and some good ones, good choices. He's made some bad choices. Every director does,
Mhm.
you know. Um, with me, with Snyder, is I think he has a tonal thing that he likes to do, and it doesn't feel like the characters from the comics.
Yep.
Now, when you're handling somebody like Vigilante or some lower level characters, you probably get more leeway. But if you're handling Superman or Batman,
Mhm.
or I mean, I am not convinced that Superman Legacy is going to be great,
Mhm.
just because James Gunn,
Mhm.
because James Gunn has so far handled characters that were pretty minor characters.
Mhm.
He hasn't handled anybody with a lot of renown.
Yep, that's a
You
good
know,
point. That's a very good point.
when you put your stamp on Superman or Batman or Spider Man, then a character that everybody knows outside of comics too,
Yeah.
then it's gonna leave a mark.
Yep.
So, I think Snyder with the Watchmen, nobody really knew those characters.
Yeah.
So that's why there's, he changed the ending. Big whoop. It made it more accessible to the average comic person.
Mhm.
But eventually, you could make a movie with a giant monster at the end. Look at the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, right.
Look
Good
at
point.
Starro.
Another good point. Yep.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is that
Mhm.
Snyder Gunn is not celebrated for the way he handles big characters because a lot of the characters are, he took characters that didn't have well established personalities
Yep.
or he twisted them into what he wanted.
Right.
But most of them people don't really care about that much. Peacemaker, Vigilante, I love Vigilante, but I mean, how many people out there picked up that first book that knows Adrian Chase was a judge who became a vigilante, you know, or that it
Oh,
passed
here
on
all
through
along,
kids?
I thought we were talking about the cowboy vigilante from the Golden Age. Boy,
Jay is talking about the character vigilante
I know.
in
I'm just
Peacemaker,
kidding.
right?
When I hear vigilante, I think of the Greg Saunders, the character, the
Right.
cowboy one.
And when
You
I
know,
hear Greg Saunders, I think of the tech on CSI.
okay. And just so that I won't be labeled a James Gunn apologist, I did not like his Adam Warlock.
Yeah,
That is not the way I would have chosen to do a character like Adam Warlock. And now I don't think you can really do all of the big Adam Warlock stuff with that weird ass version that we, have now.
Well, he's still only supposed to be a few days old, so you could grow him up. But yeah, he's
Yeah,
kind of set.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but then Gunn says tonally he's not doing a Guardians movie or a Suicide Squad movie. This is going to be a more serious, not serious, but more reverent film
Good.
to the character of Superman. So
Good.
we'll see. In messages, it doesn't come through. I love Gunn movies. Well, good. So
good.
All right, guys. I think we're going to end it there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the times you guys showed up for the show this year. I can't believe this show is still going on. I can't believe every Sunday Jim is willing to come on and talk. So,
well, it keeps me off the streets.
So we will be back on January 7th. I hope everybody has an amazing Christmas, a great New Year.
Yep, same here.
Enjoy What If enjoy
Echo.
Oh, Jay says if he's awake.
Oh, and don't forget, you Doctor Who fans, we have another special on Christmas Day.
Ncuti Gatwa.
Yep.
First full appearance as the Doctor.
Yep. Yeah. And I think like here in my time zone, I think I get it at like 12:30 in the afternoon or something like that. It's great. It'll be perfect.
Yeah. 1 sec. Almost. All right. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Jim, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all you guys. I will be on for the Dan Wickline show this week. And we'll go from there. So everybody take care, and we'll see you